Hello folks, hope you're doing very well. It is a new week, and that means it's time for some more hobby nightmares. Indeed. Looking forward to these ones. But hopefully you've done okay this week and you're going into the new week feeling good. And if you're not, then hopefully hobby nightmares can cheer you up a little bit. Let's see. Alrighty. Firstly, we have one from Merlin. Hello Merlin, how's it going, dude? He says, "Hi Northern. You may call me Merlin, as that's my usual internet name. I have a few stories to tell, but hopefully they aren't too long, and ultimately, they aren't the worst compared to others you've read out, but you be the judge. I will. I can't say that I've ever truly had a hobby nightmare. I found myself a good group of people to play against in all of the games I've played, and they generally have the same attitude to the games as me. Build strong lists, and duke it out. If you lose badly because Games Workshop decided the new codex had to be written by Matt Ward, and thus overpowered beyond belief, you just doubled down and tried your best to beat it. Before I begin, I will put the caveat that it took me 3 attempts to pass GCSE English language, and I've never been great at knowing when sentences and certain punctuations need to end and start. So, if any of the below throws you off, I do apologise. There's no problem, man. Being bad at English is forgivable. Dude, loads of people are bad at English, right? Not checking your work and then expecting me to do that's when I draw the line. No. You could have checked this over, or had somebody else check this over for you. It's fine so far, though. All good. But it's not a crime to be bad at English, dude. Loads of people are, so don't worry about it. Like, I'm terrible at maths. It just is what it is. Some people have blind spots. Anyway, before I begin... I've already read that bit. So, the first story is a short story that is more a mild case of karmic retribution rather than a hobby nightmare. However, it's something that I still chuckle at from time to time. So, for a bit of context, I started playing 40k back in 5th edition after having collected a small force of Imperial Guard for a couple of years beforehand. I wasn't new to wargaming as I had started playing the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game when it first came out with my brother. But I was interested in getting into 40k a few years later when I saw an image on the Games Workshop website of the Cadian 8th on parade. So, when I got to university, I decided to visit the local Games Workshop where one of the regulars showed me how to play the game. This was back when you could still play in stores and Guard Infantry came in boxes of 20 minis for £18. Dude, the good old days, wow. How much is that now? Astra, Militarum, units, whatever, right? £26.78, of course it is. 30 quid then. 30 quid. Almost doubled in price. This is what I mean with Games Workshop. Like, oh, well, don't have a go at them all the time. No, I will, thank you. Why? Because they've doubled their prices and my wages haven't doubled. What do you think we're earning, Games Workshop? We're not all millionaires. We're earning the same money now as we were back then. By and large. Maybe a slight increase. Slight. But you've doubled your prices. Get out of here. No. Screw that company. Get out of here. Anyway. My first few games were pretty good, and I had a lot of fun learning the game. But at the time, the Imperial Guard was still using the 4th edition codex, and I was struggling to actually win against my usual Space Marine opponents, who had their 5th edition codex already. As you'd expect, this was mostly down to limited options within the codex, and my lack of understanding that 5th edition was tailor-made for mechanised armies, and I haven't copped onto realising that melter guns were a necessity, and of course, no one told me I should get them to preserve their advantage. Well, yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. A couple of months go by and I learned there is a university hobby club, and it's whilst there, that I first played Rick. Rick is what I would now call my best friend, but at the time, he was mostly just a chill guy who used to sit and paint his armies in Games Workshop. He rarely played anyone other than one of his friends, but he was great to talk to while I painted my guard. So, when I went to this hobby club and he offered to play me, I jumped at the chance. Rick is a tournament-style player. He never pulls his punches and will always bring the best army list he can with whatever army he plays, Eldar and Blood Angels specifically. Though he was never a meta chaser, quote unquote. this is something that I think needs to be responded to, right? People will think I don't like the way this guy plays, but that's untrue, right? Tournament players you can play decent normal games against tournament players. You just need to know what that you're going up against the best army that this guy can bring. You know what I mean? And sometimes we are not all in it for sweaty reasons. We're not all in here to bleed through the eyeballs when we're trying to, get another dice roll going. You know, some of us are just here wanting beer and pretzels and to chill out with our friends. But that doesn't mean this guy shouldn't be in the hobby. And a lot of people tend to bitch and whine about, why they're coming in and they're just destroying it with the gamification of the rules and no, it's fine. It's fine, just carry on. It's all good. Anyway, so when we got to the table and set up, I got my guard out of their case. We rolled off for deployment, and he won the roll-off and proceeded to deploy his Eldar army, which consisted of a Fire Prism, 3 Wave Serpents, Fire Dragons, a couple of squads of Dire Avengers, Eldrad, and after that, I'm pretty unsure. It's been a while. I deployed thereafter. While this was going on, we attracted a few of the Games Workshop regulars, probably curious to see Rick playing with somebody other than his friend. When I was finished deploying my army, Rick then asked, how many Melticons do you have in the army? None, I replied. Then I was asked what I had in terms of anti-tank weapons, to which I pointed towards my 2 Lemon Rust battle tanks and my chimeras, and almost everybody around the table started laughing. Everybody except me, who had no idea what was so funny. Again, I was a newbie, and I couldn't afford to get much other than the plastic sets. The best weaponry the guard could have weren't on the infantry sprues at the time, only grenade launchers and flamers, and if I wanted to get melter guns, I basically had to order them in, and I wasn't aware that the Lehman Russ was considered a terrible vehicle, and I should have gotten the Demolisher instead, and the less said about the tank hunting capabilities of the Chimeras, the better. Once the laughing had subsided, we began the game, and this is where the karmic retribution kicks in. Right, before we get to that is a really, really, really crappy way to respond to somebody who is new to the game. Do you know what I mean? But, saying that, what else can he say? Those are terrible, you shouldn't use them. No, because it's your army, dude, right? But they're laughing at you for picking the wrong units. It's kind of the attitude that really gets in my craw, It's like, nah, dude, come on. Anyway, I don't know if it's still a thing. I haven't played 40k since 5th edition, and 6th edition left a sour taste in my mouth. But at the start of the game, the player who deployed second could roll to seize the initiative. I rolled a 6 and got to go first. I don't think it's still... I think it might still be a thing. I've not played 10th in a while. I played it twice this year, well, last year. So yeah, I couldn't tell you. Well, Lady Luck must have taken pity on me, because in my first turn, my dice, it would seem, were on a mission to prove a point to these snooty people around me. In my first shot, one of my chimeras immobilized a Wave Serpent. Considering the multi-laser was strength 6, that meant I needed a 6 just to glance it, and then a further 6 to immobilize it, as glancing hits were always -2 on the dice result on the damage table, a 6 being an explosion. Luckily for me, this was the Wave Serpent that had the squad of Fire Dragons in it, so they were forced to walk up the table now. The second Chimera stunned another Wave Serpent, meaning it couldn't move for that turn. One of my Lehman Russes immobilized the third Wave Serpent, with my second Lehman Russ stunned the Fire Prism. Within the first turn, I had effectively crippled the nimble Eldar and forced them to mostly fight the rest of the game at my pace. Rick and the rest of the guys watching were stunned, but like any good player worth his salt, he rallied pretty quickly. In the end, I didn't win the game. Lady Luck, it seemed, had given all she was willing to give me, as I only rolled below averagely after that, but it was more evenly matched and turned into a very fun and very close game nonetheless. My rocky relationship with Lady Luck would be a running theme for the rest of my wargaming life. We're all there, dude. We're all there. And this wasn't the only game where I'd have an amazing first turn, and then the rest of the game I would be forced to watch my complete dismantling. For example, at a small-ish tournament, last game of the weekend, I played against a Space Wolf army, and at first turn where I immobilized or destroyed all of his vehicles, and killed a couple of the Marines inside some of the destroyed Rhinos. My first vendetta, with veterans infantry squad within it, with 3 melter guns, used their scout move before the first turn, getting well within his deployment zone. I disembarked the infantry in turn 1 and used their melters to bring the Land Raider low while the Vendetta took out the Rhino. Dude, you're actually quite good. Just from what you've been saying, like, you got a lot of tactical awareness. It's good. What's wrong with all this? My second Vendetta with a special weapon squad with 3 melter guns did the same thing on the other flank, taking out or immobilizing another Rhino and I think a Vindicator, but I'm not sure on the latter. Every other unit in the army did what they could to chip away at the Space Wolf army. Then, Lady Luck, the bitch that she is, took away every ounce of luck I had, and I barely rolled anything more than 1s, 2s and 3s for the rest of the game, and was forced to watch as my precious mechanized guard infantry army was dismantled turn after turn. To the point that my opponent stopped enjoying the game at all. My dice rolls weren't letting me put up any sort of a fight, so I don't blame him for being as bummed out as I had gotten. Though it was probably my attitude after turn 3 that probably soured the game for him, as I basically checked out of the game by that point. Ever since then, I've been in a sort of arms race against Lady Luck, building lists in any game I play where I do my best to avoid situations where my chronic bad luck can completely screw me over, and my opponent over for that matter. Because it's no fun losing that badly, and it's no fun winning that well because your opponent isn't having fun anymore. Dude, there is such a good side, do you know what I mean? People don't really see that side usually. But you're right. You're right. Like absolutely landslide winning and seeing the other guy's army just dissipate and annihilate itself isn't that fun. You know what I mean? Anyway, the last story is probably the most nightmarish of them all, which is why I've saved it to last, but still very much on the mild side, but we'll see. Midway through 5th edition, I decided to start collecting the Tau. Tau never got a 5th edition codex, so I was stuck using the 4th edition one. At the time, the only list that worked for them was maxing out on battlesuits and very little else. I've never been a meta chaser, and I've always been a bit stubborn about what other people say I should be doing. If someone were to tell me that this was better than that, chances are I will still use that out of spite and try to make it work. Me too, man. Me too. Absolutely. This is why I like playing either the Barbarian or Healers in MMORPGs. Right? Because we're really popular. To say the least. We're just really popular. Brilliant stuff, though. Absolutely brilliant. Let me just move. I'm downloading some of your pictures, by the way. If you're wondering what I'm doing right now. Okay, cool. For the Tau, I went mostly Fire Warrior heavy, which admittedly was a bit of a bad idea for that edition, but I did have 2 squads of battlesuits that I could use, one of them being the commander and his bodyguard. Well, I decided to enter a tournament with them and proceeded to lose all but the very last game, which I won. That was fine, as it was my second army, and I only just had started collecting them, so it wasn't going to be a good tournament in that way anyway. Well, one of my games on the first day was against a Space Wolf player who was at least one of the frequent guests of Beasts of War, now called On Tabletop at the time. They set up a camera on one table side, and we played the game. From my perspective, I did fairly well, considering the bad list I'd brought with me. I got a few decent kills, and the Fire Warrior managed to kill a Space Wolf in close combat, no less. The direction of travel was always going against me, but I thought it was a really good game. Apparently my opponent and the rest of Beasts of War team did not. I heard this the next day from my friend Rick, as he went to the pub after the first day. I don't drink, and it's an hour drive back to my home, so I left right after the first day was done. Where he overheard the Beast of War guys laughing and criticising my Tau army specifically. And I know it was me specifically, as I was the only Tau player there that weekend. Despite me telling my opponent that I had only just started the army, and still in the figuring out stage of the army building process, and that I bought them because I wanted to play with something other than my guard at a tournament, fully expecting to lose my games, they still had this attitude towards me. You can imagine the sour impression it left on me, the whole Beasts of War team, and after that, I don't think I ever paid them or their wargaming opinions any attention at all. Dude, what you just did there, right, is exactly what you should do. If you... Are they still on? Are they still on YouTube? Let's have a look. Oh, they are. Got 109k subscribers. Okay, well, you know, if they want to respond, they can. You know, it is an open forum. All good. No, I was not there for this, so I'm going to take this man at his word. Why would you write in a hobby nightmare and put in all the effort to doing that with something that isn't true? But yeah, what you just did here, man, is you've done the right thing. If a YouTuber you like or don't like, you know, is on YouTube, right? Ignore them. Don't watch them anymore. Just go and do another thing. Do you know what I say to people when they give me, like, negative comments on YouTube? Dude, I'm not worth it. I have 20-odd thousand subscribers. What are you doing with your time? Imagine having the time to write a negative comment on a YouTube video. Just let that sink in. You have the time to sit there and be negative to somebody who you don't know, who doesn't care that you exist. Like, I cannot think of a more futile thing to do. And imagine having that amount of spare time, right? Imagine having the mental... I don't mean get a job. I mean, like, literally, you could be doing anything else. Playing a video game, you know, painting some models, talking to your friends, taking your girlfriend out if you got one, right? Doing whatever. Cooking a meal. But you spent 5 to 10 minutes writing a really nasty comment in my comment section. Imagine being that bitter and that warped a person that you take time out of your day to do that. To spread negativity. Can you imagine? Spreading what are you doing, dude? What are you doing? So what you did there was the right thing, right? You could have gone on and been like, oh, I hate all of your videos on every single video they ever do. Why? Why? You know? You did the right thing. You went, nah, it's not watching those anymore. I'll just take my time and get rid of these guys from my life. Brilliant, Merlin. That's what you should be doing. However, years later, I recounted this story on some wargaming forum, and one of the Beasts of War guys happened to be on it and offered an apology on behalf of the team. They probably didn't remember it happened, but it was nice to get an apology all the same. Well done to them, man. On tabletop, well done to you. That's good. That's good. Anyway, that's all I've got. I recently refound your channel, and the Hobby Nightmares have been a great thing to listen to and work whilst I'm painting. While it's not Warhammer, I've attached pictures of my Middle-earth strategy battle game minis in case you're interested. Okay. He then explained his models, but we're running short on time, so I'm going to just put these on screen for him. But yeah, you did exactly the right thing, dude. Exactly the right thing that you should be doing. Don't let anybody get in your craw. Don't let anybody dominate your time negatively, you know? If you don't like something on YouTube, move on. The best thing you can do if you don't like something on YouTube is don't engage with it. The minute you give that person a comment, the YouTube algorithm says that's positive. YouTube doesn't see things as black and white, good and bad, right? It literally sees engagement. That's all it sees. So if you leave a negative comment, you're only strengthening the channel that you don't like. Dude, these Umbar Corsairs, that's amazing. That's amazing. But anyway, yeah, make sure that you just don't comment. Just don't watch them again. That's the best thing you can do. If you don't like something or somebody rubs you up the wrong way, don't watch them. Job done. You know, when they come up on your feed, say, please don't recommend this to me. That'll do more damage to them than any comment you can ever do, right? And it saves you a lot of time too. You know, there are certain things a healthy person would be doing with their time. Bitching online on a forum or on, you know, a YouTube video isn't one of them. Anyway, moving on. Thanks, Merlin. Cheers, mate. All right. Who is next? April is next. Hello, April. How's it going? Hello from America, Mr. North. I'm a relatively new viewer of the channel. Well, welcome. So I've got quite the backlog of hobby nightmares to chew through, but would like to share my story with you and your community about how Warhammer has helped me fight off my depression, as well as learn about my own identity. Okay. Brief context, but I am a transgender woman. Okay. Which comes into play later in the story. Some may scoff, but I'd like to give a trigger warning about mentions of, you know, doing away with your self-thoughts in the preamble here, as I know mentions of it can send me down a dark train of thought. Buckle up, get comfortable, with a nice warm cup of tea, and hopefully enjoy. Alright, man. Cool. Alright, man. Sorry, man. I've done it again! Stop! Yeah, okay. I'll just shut up. Alright. For at least the past decade, I've struggled with clinical depression. I would isolate myself from my friends, only having online interactions and disappearing for months whilst convincing myself that they all hated me, that I didn't deserve love and community, and really was just wishing that I was not around. For a long time, I refused to admit that I was depressed. I blunted my emotions until I started having panic attacks and could no longer ignore it. In between, I found a lot of comfort in the 40k community. Whilst I was too intimidated to buy and paint models, I fell deeply in love with the lore and immersed myself in it. Around the middle of 9th edition, I got really into watching people play the game, and wanted to try it myself. Unfortunately, I kept myself from taking the plunge for literal years, as I could barely conjure the will to get out of bed, let alone finish models. I'd relish getting to watch 40k games on YouTube or lore videos, as they were my personal escape from my own thoughts. I suffer from a thing called suicidal ideation, where I do not have any active will to end my life, but constantly imagine myself perishing and wishing I'd get hit by a truck or something so it could all be over. I even worked exclusively graveyard shifts, spending weeks to months at a time almost completely alone, save for the person who would relieve me in the morning, and the few customers on the odd 3 AM snack trip. Well, this continued for about 4 years or so, until I was put on medication and started therapy a year after that, which is where our story finally kicks in. I never heard of that, suicidal ideation. Okay. So would that be like when somebody says, you know, I'm too much of a coward to actually want to hurt myself, but I don't want to be here anymore, right? So like that feeling you get where, you know, if a piano fell on me right now, I'd be okay with that. Dude, I've been there. I've been there. Absolutely. My God, man. Yeah, I've been there. So I've been and definitely at a point. I'm just trying to figure out what I should say and what I shouldn't say, from a personal standpoint. But in terms of me, I've been around this where, I think when I got back from America for a good year, the missus I'm with now, like she met, well, we reconnected around about then, and I told her some stuff at the time, like, you know, like that it upset her at the time, which I didn't know. But we'd go for walks on the beach together, and you know, and this is why it's such a strong relationship, because we started off as friends, right? Like really good friends. She was with somebody at the time, you know, but you know, so it was all above board. There was nothing going on, and we've been friends since like high school days, and you know, eventually I would open up and start talking about, you know what, and I'd do it like a very blasé way. I'd say, you know what, like if I wasn't here, like if something happened to me, it'd be fine. You know, I've got my daughter, I've got, you know, I've become a teacher, I've done what I wanted to do in life. I'd be okay with it. You know, I had a good time in America, and it fell apart, and there's nothing else I really want. You know, I'm just done. Like I'm just kind of done. I don't, you know. And it's only now I realise how absolutely dark and desperate that was, you know? Like, because that's not really an issue you can solve. If you're, like, really suicidal, you know, and you're going to make that decision eventually, it doesn't solve your issue. I'm not saying it does, but you've got an end goal of saying, look, if it gets so bad, I'm just going to do this, right? With this, what you've just mentioned there, suicidal ideation, there's no way out of that. Because there's no end point to it, right? There's no get out of jail free card. You know, there's no end point. There's no button to press. You know? And that sounds weird, but just how I think. And that was a time in my life when I definitely thought that way. I thought, look, you know, if a piano was dropped on my head and I never felt anything, I'd be fine with that. You know? And I was actually thinking that it'd be easier for my family if I just wasn't around, because I was a burden to them, I felt, you know, because I kept failing at things, like my life. I kept, like, you know, trying to get my life going, You know, I tried to get jobs. I tried to do things, and nothing was working out. I almost got married. That didn't work out. I almost moved to America. That didn't work out. I almost had a really cool life, and it didn't work out. And that was like, this was like the fifth false start that my life had, right? I was now in my 30s, you know, just about. I was in my 30s, and, you know, I still wasn't sorted. I wasn't there. I hadn't done anything, right? And I was done. And it was, like, coming back from America was like one too many. It was like, no, this is one kick in the balls too many. I've had so many kicks in the balls, like, I'm done, you know, and I'm not going to do anything to myself, but I would not cry over spilt milk if I were just deleted tomorrow by a moving train or something. You know what I mean? I wouldn't do it to myself, but, you know, one of them things. Because I honestly thought that I was going to be doing my family a favour by if that happened, you know. So I wouldn't do it because I was too much of it. I didn't wish myself harm, you know. That's the way you've put it there. I didn't wish myself harm, right? But like and I would try and get out of the way of a moving car. You know what I mean? I'd give it an honest try. But if it didn't, and I died, I honestly wouldn't have cared. You know, I would have, okay, well, whatever. You know. So I think that's what you mean. And yeah, I was there for a while, and it sucked. It really did. It sucked. You know, I think about where I am now in life sometimes, and I don't tear up. I'm not a pussy. You know what I mean? But like, I kind of do, like, think, I get a tightness in my chest going, wow, like, I am at peace, dude. I still panic about things. I still worry about things. I'm still stressed about things. But in terms of life in general, I'm good. Right? Things are going well. And if I'd have given in to those thoughts back in the day to absolute despair, I wouldn't be here now. You know, I'd be doing something else, or I'd be, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just glad I am where I am. I'm glad I didn't take that step. Which is why I think you guys should do the same thing. You know, there will come a time in your life, if you're feeling this way, where you look back in like 2 or 3 years and go, thank fuck I didn't do that. I'm serious. It might take longer than that. It might take 5 years. But there's going to come a time where you look back and go, oh, thank Christ I didn't do that. And you hear it all the time. People go, oh, well, you know, it's easy for you to say. Yeah, no, it isn't. No, it really isn't. Listen, as somebody who's been there, I am the last person who would blow smoke up your ass, right? I'm the last person who would lie to you just to try and make you feel better. No, right? I've been there. It sucks balls, dude. But if I can come back from what I came back from, you know, multiple life resets, firings, losing friends, losing jobs, losing relationships, losing futures, you know, all things I've gone through with my daughter. If I can come through all that and still be here, and I'm a wreck, you know what I mean? If I can do all that and still be here, so can you, right? I'm serious. All right. Well, that went heavy. That's what she said. When I started therapy and my therapist took in the scope of my condition, he asked how my social life was. I explained to him that the rare times I'd go out to eat with a close friend and the occasional online D&D games I'd run before losing the will to run them and putting them on hiatus. It sounds really silly, but I didn't realise that outside of my job, I was very rarely socialised. At this point in our conversation, I had babbled on for a while about 40k, and at this point, I had acquired a small pile of shame of about 500 to 1,000 points of Chaos Space Marines, and he, my therapist, had an idea. And I quote, "So, are there places where people play this game, this 40k? I replied in the affirmative, and even mentioned a small store I had visited to amass my pile of shame. And what he said next struck me like a brick to the chest. Well, what if you went there to play the game as well? Again, this sounds incredibly silly in retrospect, but you must understand that in my mind I was convinced that I was worthless completely. I thought nobody cared if I was alive or gone, that no one would ever want to interact with me, so the idea of going to a store and trying to connect with people was earth-shattering for me. It had been so long since I had a real close friends and socialised that I would have panic attacks just going into stores, my face going numb as my mind raced in genuine terror. My therapist jokes all the time that I'm no psychic, and I need to remind myself that I don't know what other people are thinking about me, especially random people at the bloody grocery store. At this point, I also actually began my transition, so he also floated the idea of having that space to experiment with my identity. I knew he was right, and finally pushed myself to give it a go, and drove to the store on my next day off. The store owner, his name abbreviated to S for privacy, greeted me warmly, helped me pick out some paint for my Alpha Legion, and rung me up, whereupon he mentioned, "Hey, if you're free Friday, we have painting nights here." It felt like my heart was running a million times a second. My hand shook as I nodded and asked, this Friday? Every Friday. You're welcome any time, man. We usually paint in the back room there. Feel free to just bring your models and paints, and we've got cups and pallets for the rest. I must admit, I was terrified. But I said, I'd love to come. S was overjoyed. This store is small and relatively new, so he's happy to have new people any time. And then he asked my name. I started to say my dead name, but cut myself off and gave him my chosen name, April. There was suddenly a second or two that passed before S replied to me, but for me, it felt like an eternity. I defaulted to my normal mind reading, is he okay with the trans queer people in the store? I don't pass this early in. He knows, and he's going to say something. He thinks I'm some sort of disgusting... April? Great! Sorry, it takes me a few tries, but I like to learn everybody's names. Mr. North, I was starstruck. For the first time in a while, I felt my mind relaxed, as I realised I was wrong. He didn't really care. He treated me just warmly as when I came in, and has continued to do so the same day, every day that I go into the store. Okay. That's awesome, man. So I'm going to still keep calling you man, because I call everybody that, by the way. And if you don't like it, man up. Sorry. April, I love you, right? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding here. Congrats on you. Congrats. It takes... Oh, dude, what the fuck? It takes a big set of balls to make the decision you made, right? To actually go ahead and say, I think this is who I am, right? Now, I am of the opinion, and I say this a lot, that I think the condition of being transgender has been used to cover up many people's other social failings and mental failings, right? But I'm not one of these people who says they don't exist, right? I know one, right? So they do, right? Trans people are out there, and you do sound like a real, actual person who's got you are there. That's what it sounds like to me, right? There are far too many people out there who treat it like a fucking fashion statement. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? There are far too many people who have ADHD or are just not very interesting who tend to say that they're trans just to try and be more interesting and have a personality. I would say most that I come across are making a statement rather than actually showing people who they really are. I'm going to be honest. I'm sure you're in the same boat, April. Any trans person I talk to about this and I say this, they go, yep. And the ones who get offended are those people. The ones who get offended are the people who are using the trans thing to basically give themselves an identity. They get offended. Actual trans people go, yep, and I'm sick of it. Right? Literal. They're like, yeah, I'm sick of it. Because I went through a lot to get where I am, and then these people just swan in and give us all a bad name by using it as some sort of way to either look at their fetishes or whatever. No, dude. I've gone through a living hell to get where I am. That's what a trans person would say to you. I've gone through a living hell to get where I am. So you don't get to just use it as, being trans and being goth aren't the same thing. One of them's a subculture and one of them is an actual thing. An actual identity. You know? Like an actual person. So yeah, just so you know what my thoughts are on it, because I know I've passed a few jokes your way, so I don't want you to think that I'm, coming at you or whatever. But yeah, that's where I am in terms of these things. But I will admit, though, April, is that when somebody tells me they're trans, I look at them like askance, like, yeah, are you though? I do. I'm sorry, I do. Are you though? And I can usually make that judgment on speaking to them before they've told me they're trans, right? If I get the amount of times I'll be speaking to somebody and they say something like, "Oh, I'm trans" or this or that, right? And they've already come over as a douche in the conversation, some self-absorbed douche nozzle already, and then they say I'm trans. Nah, you're not. Like, and now I'm like, no, you're not. You are using that as a fashion statement, and it's disgusting. Like, don't do that, right? I don't say that to them. I just quietly put them in the do not talk to bracket in my mind. Just go, no. This person's a douche. Don't want to talk to them, right? Like a trans person that you speak to won't tell you they're trans for a long time. It might be obvious, but they won't say anything. They just won't say anything. They're just like, yeah. Because you know why? Because they want to be treated like normal people. Okay? A trans person does not want to bring attention to the fact that they're trans. Like, April here wants to be seen as a woman. So the last thing she's going to do is say, oh, by the way, I'm trans. When she meets somebody in real life. It's the last thing they're going to do. They're not going to do that. They're going to go, oh, hi, I'm April, right? Blah, blah, blah. And they will act like a woman. Because to her, she's a woman, right? What they don't do is go, hi, I'm April, I'm trans, and they shake your hand. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't happen. Which is why, and it already gets my alarm bells going on when somebody, within the first 5 minutes of a conversation, goes, oh, by the way, I'm transgender, or I'm non-binary. No, you're not. Right? No. I mean, don't get me wrong, some of them might be, and that's just what they do, right? But a lot of the time, I'm like, are you, though? Are you? I'm very protective of, in the right way, right? I have gay friends, I have trans friends, I'm very protective of them, right? Because they've gone through some shit. Like, and I mean, even beyond the dating scene, right? They've gone through some shit. Okay, and, And now, on top of all that, they're besmirched by weirdos trying to pass themselves off as what they are, which isn't right. Anyway, I'll skip ahead a tad, thank you. After a month of coming in every week to painting night, meeting some great people who were nothing but kind to me, S mentioned a painting competition, and I made my next big push. The theme was companions, and I bought a Magic the Gathering commemorative model, the Cosmo Wolf, as well as a Space Wolf Terminator kit, making a little diorama of a Space Wolf Rune Priest summoning a giant wolf to fight at his side. I'll attach a picture to this email, but I push myself hard, painting daily at home and bringing it in every week to try my hardest to make something cool. And I took second place at the end of the month. The other entries were breathtaking, and the other competitors were just wonderful people and all. As I painted every week, S would come check in on me and see how it was all going. After the wolf, I picked up a blooded kill team, and this is where the world truly opened up to me, at least I think. Well, April, you haven't attached it to the email. So, I'll tell you what. That sounds like such a cool model. If you send it to me again, just send the picture and I'll put it on the next episode, alright? Anyway, not too long ago, you made a video about needing dads, both literally and metaphorically, in the space, and I think I'm a prime example of the effect it can have. S saw me, and that I was making a kill team, and so he passed that along to another regular at the store. Again, abbreviated for privacy, let's call him Jay. Jay is a tall, middle-aged man who has been playing kill team for a long time, and one night, while I'm painting at the store, he came to visit the store and happened to walk through, asking me about my model. I explained the kill team I was painting, and he asked if I played. I sort of shrunk a bit as I said no, I've never played, but was met with a handshake and an offer to teach me the game. At this point, I am fully dressing to meet my gender identity, and still have these nagging doubts that I don't pass, and everybody thinks you're weird for this, things like that. But here I was, proven wrong again. We set a date, and he brought some Krieg guard to play against me. Jay was kind enough to let me off easy on the first few games, as I started to learn how everything worked. He'd leave guys out in the open, make bad moves accidentally, essentially giving me a tutorial game on easy mode to get acclimated. After the first game, he stayed on Krieg guard so I could focus on keeping the rules straight, but began taking off the training wheels as he'd punish big errors on my part, teaching me about defensive positioning. For a few months, once a week, him and I would meet and get a game in or two. And here I was proven wrong again. Here it was, direct proof of somebody wanting to be friends with me, regular talking with me and reaching out to meet up and have a great time playing. If I missed a painting night, people would check up on me in the store's Discord. It was shocking to me. Finally, after getting a handle on Kill Team, Jay asked me if I'd like to join a group of regulars who play Kill Team at the store. This time, saying yes didn't feel so scary. For the first time in a decade, I was excited at the prospect of actually meeting new people. I was still shit scared, mind you, but just elated. How thankful I am for that nudge, as now I can happily say I found my community. I play Kill Team weekly and try out different fashion styles with a group of people who affirm me, and have been nothing but kind and welcoming to me. It probably helps that I'm terrible at Kill Team, but I have a lot of fun when I pull off Hail Mary plays and shenanigan manoeuvres, even if I ultimately get trounced. Right now I'm even working on finishing my Alpha Legion to play against the Sisters player in the store. Feel free to leave this next bit out if this is already too long, but with your blessing, I'd like to say something to anybody struggling like I was, and still am, to less of a degree anyway, in the audience. Oh, okay, I can read this out. Okay. April says, and I quote, "Hi. Please, if you have any thoughts of ending yourself, or even if you wish somebody else would end you so you wouldn't have to do it yourself and feel selfish, just know that you can get help. It is not you. There is nothing wrong with you, save for the fact that you feel this way about yourself. You are worthy of being cared about, you are worthy of love, and you're worthy of life. Please seek therapy before you do anything drastic, if for no other reason than if you end it, you will never get to see if you could have gotten better, which I know you can. I know you can because I am doing so. It's not easy, but I promise you it's much easier than continuing on like you might be right now. Thank you for considering or even reading my story, Mr. North. I wish you all luck with your work this time next year, and even greater luck with your dice rolls in the future. April." Cheers. Cheers. That's awesome. That's awesome. It's brilliant. Awesome, man. I think that's really cool, and it's a really good message as well. In terms of therapy, like, I honestly think that sometimes it's not the right thing to do, because, bad therapy is, much worse than no therapy, if you don't get the right guy. But if you get the right therapist, then definitely, yeah, absolutely, it can be a massive, massive help. You just got to be careful. A lot of people look at therapy as this one-size-fits-all fixer, and it's not that. It takes a lot of work to get therapy right and to do it right. But if you're committed to it, things can go better for you. And by the way, your therapist there literally just gave you a nudge in the right direction, but you did the rest. People give therapy far too much credit. You did the rest there, You could have saved yourself a lot of money by just going to the hobby store. Do you know what I'm saying? So yes, therapy is great, but I honestly think it should only be used in, like, break glass here in case of emergency. Those are the kinds of people who should be going to therapy, in my opinion. Right? Therapy will give you some decent ideas and will give you like a shot on the arm to do things. Yeah, most definitely. But in terms of normal people going to therapy, there was a thing I said a while ago when I was like, everybody should go to therapy. No, I no longer agree with myself there. I don't think that's right. I think therapy is something that certain people definitely need, but most need friends and a shot in the arm. essentially, you know. Anyway, I love you a long time. I'll be back tomorrow with another 40k rant, where we're going to be talking about my decision to leave Warhammer 40,000 as a game, and even as a bit of a hobby, and what's changed in the year since I made that decision. Speak to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye now.